Are buyers liars? Well, agents sure talk about it a lot. It's been a reoccurring thing in real estate since I was around in 1989 working for other agents. Everybody say, focus on listings because buyers are liars. So why do buyers get such a bad rap? Well, one, because they're difficult. They've got decisions to make. Sometimes they make promises and agree to things they go back on. And it frustrates agents because why? What we put in a lot of effort showing homes and doing paperwork and comping homes, writing offers, submitting them, calling the other agents, sometimes even getting them into escrow, and we can't get through a home inspection or an appraisal without the deal falling apart. As soon as negotiations happen, buyers get cold feet. Sometimes we set up showings, we give up a weekend, we go show up at the house, they never show up. And then they ghost you, which, by the way, guys, that means that they don't answer your phone calls when they were before, they don't respond to texts. It can be really frustrating. So what do we default to? We say, well, buyers are liars. Well, have you ever stopped to consider the actual psychology that is going on with a buyer? When I lecture on the psychology of a seller, I always talk about understand that even if a seller wants to sell, they're actually losing something. Even though the way you're looking at it is they're going to get the house they want. They're going to upgrade from the one or move to neighborhood school district or move out of state or buying that new home, or in some cases to a retirement home, whatever they're doing, they're gaining something. They're getting a new home. Well, that's fine. And yes, they're getting the money from the sale of their house, but what's really happening? They're giving up something they had. They're disposing of real property that it has emotional value to them. Even if they tell you they hate the house and they've outgrown it and it doesn't work for their family anymore, it's still giving something up. So that's what I teach on that. So we go automatically, all right, well, if sellers are losing something, well, buyers should be easy because they're getting something. And that's exciting because we all know how easy it is to click the add to cart button on Amazon and end up with packages at our front door that are like, I guess I didn't really need that, but you know what? This is neat. It gave me a couple minutes of happiness, some usefulness, whatever. It's not the same with a large purchase. Now, here's why. If you think that the bulk of society walks around completely confident in all of their decisions, where no outside force or person has any influence on them, you are completely wrong. The news influences them, their parents, their friends, the general consensus of people they live around all have opinions about real estate. And they hear it, it gets in their mind, and they start second guessing things. So what is the first thing we have to think about in the psychology of a buyer? They are scared or afraid of making a mistake. Now, we always talk about the fact that the human condition lends us to avoid loss more so than fighting hard for a gain. And you have to remember that. We will do more as a human to avoid losing something than we will to gain something. And there have been lots and lots of studies throughout history that prove this. We also are always looking for guaranteed results. Well, what are two things that happen when you're going through the process of buying a home? You don't have guaranteed results and you're losing money. You go, what are you losing money? No, they're buying an asset. They're getting a home, something they want. It is very easy to spend money with a single click on the computer or grabbing a candy bar off the end cap as you're putting your groceries up on the conveyor belt. It is really easy to just spend a couple extra bucks on a pair of shoes or a purse or whatever when you know there's a check coming on Friday on payday and it's going to replenish the money that you're spending. But if you've worked for years and years and years, and maybe most of your adult life, in order to put money together to wade into the waters of making a home purchase, and you're looking at that account balance, and maybe it's between accounts, you've got a 401k, you've got stock investments, and you've got a savings or retirement account, and all of a sudden, you're gonna make the decision to zero out all those balances, wire that money to an escrow company, and buy a home. You're losing something. You're losing all that hard work and that security and that peace of mind you had and the enjoyment of pulling your statements on your phone or computer and looking at the money grow. It's going to go away. Now, you're going to get a great house, and that's exciting, but am I making a mistake? So not only am I losing the money that I saved, what if I make a mistake? Now, add to that even if you're selling a home, let's say to a husband and wife, they may not be on the same page of where they want to live, what they want the house to look like, what they want the home to be laid out like. Some people are happy with a certain square footage, some aren't. Some see things differently when the home's furnished as opposed to when it's not furnished. Differences in ideas of views from the backyard, front yard, what's more important, the kitchen or the garage? Does it need to have a pool? They're not always on the same page. But now add to that you can go online in any news snippet you see, one will talk about how interest rates are not going to come down in this year, and the next one says, with all of the changes in government, we are expecting to see interest rates decline in the second quarter of the year. Whoa. Should we wait? We don't know. Now they go talk to their in-laws and they say, well, we're on the hunt to buy a house. And maybe your mother-in-law says, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. I can't wait. We'll get you a housewarming present. I can't wait to throw you a housewarming party. Meanwhile, the father-in-law takes you out back and sits you down and starts telling you that owning a home is a big responsibility and you need to know what it is you're in for, because if the air conditioner breaks, it's on you to fix it, and you need to understand maintenance, and have you really calculated the full costs of home ownership, because it's not like renting, which you've done in your whole life. And you start to question, you're like, that's okay. You drive home with your wife and you guys agree. It doesn't matter what they say. It's going to be great. The family needs a house. I read an article that says real estate's the best investment if we hold it long term. Nobody ever loses money on it. And then you talk to your friend. And your friend bought at the height of the market somewhere in 2006 and then got laid off about 2008 and needed to sell the home, but they were upside down on it. And so now you're hearing the stories of, oh my gosh, we're going to empty our savings account. We're going to empty the retirement account. And what if I lose my job? And what if we can't make the payment? Or I get relocated and we have to move out of state and the market changes because, oh my gosh, you've seen what they're doing with the government agencies and things are changing, and there's government employees that should have never lost their job that are now losing their jobs. And, we're seeing retail stores close and, oh my gosh. I looked on social media and the job market's terrible. And, we go to the grocery store and there's only a couple people working. And when you ask about it, they say, oh, our hours got reduced. And what if all this happens and then we can't even sell the home and we can't recoup our money? What do we do? Maybe it's not a good idea. Then they start looking at prices and comparing that to little payment calculators. And they go, okay, well, we were paying, $4,000 a month for rent. Sometimes there were months when that was hard, especially when it was little Johnny's birthday and we spent too much because we rented the bouncy house and we didn't just do hot dogs and hamburgers. We got pizza and we got a cake and ice cream and we had a taco guy. And remember that month was really tight. In fact, we had to wait to buy groceries until my paycheck came in. How are we going to cover a $5,000 a month payment? You think we can do it? Well, the lender said on paper we can. I know, but it doesn't feel like we can. Oh no, I'm full of doubt. Then you read another article about everybody who buys a home in the last couple of years has gained, 5%, 33%. If you bought, 5 years ago, all of a sudden, you've gotten 160% equity position. You're going, no. You know what? It'll be all right because if things get tough, we'll be able to sell it for a profit. Okay, now we're back to feeling good. Meanwhile, you haven't even seen a house yet. This is what happens with buyers. They're worried about making the wrong decision. So let's say they contact you as an agent, okay? And you're able to calm their fears and help them put together a plan and make sense of what the lender is telling them. And you're trying to match properties they'd like to a payment they qualify for and can afford. Well, they've been online upselling themselves. It's what we all do, guys. If you decide to browse cars, let's say, in your free time, you're just scrolling through, you're not going to go looking at Toyota Camrys. That's what we look at when we really go buy a car. Now you're looking at Porsches and Land Rovers and high-end BMWs or Mercedes or whatever your fancy is. Because if we're online looking at the latest and greatest $115,000 Mercedes, but it comes time to buy a car and our budget's really a Honda Accord, we might buy the same color one and go, well, they're about the same size, but we've already gotten that champagne taste and now we're buying a lower model vehicle. And now we have to go to practicality mode, and now it's not as sexy and as exciting because we don't get that badge and that logo and the extra buttons and lights and the heads-up display that the Mercedes had. But we eventually are happy with it because we can afford the payment. It's a reliable car. It's comfortable. It's got all the good things. We're happy. But remember, when you buy a car, you make the decision, you take delivery, there's no returns. What happens when you buy a house? Well, you go through the whole pre-approval process, which also is another part where humans feel exposed. We don't like feeling exposed. We don't like people diving into our employment history, our credit report, our savings account, having to explain a late payment on a credit card from 2 years ago. We feel self-conscious. We feel like we're being judged. We don't like that part, so we avoid it. And avoidance causes us not to dive in and return the paperwork to the lender as fast as we had promised and been asked to do. And now behind the scenes, the lender and the buyer's agent are frustrated saying, oh my gosh, another flaky buyer. You know, they won't return the paperwork. And then you go, oh man, I know I haven't returned the paperwork I promised. Oh, darn it, it's the agent and the lender calling again. Voicemail. I'm not going to talk to him right now. Honey, we really need to decide if we're going to do this. I don't know. We can talk about it tomorrow when I get home from work. Yet another day delay. You're not backing out of moving forward. You're just having doubts and you don't know who to talk to. Remember, you haven't even looked at a home yet. And that's what we're dealing with as agents, is trying to figure out how to work with you, calm your fears, direct you, educate you, set you up for success in purchasing so that you are comfortable. But we don't want to be that pushy salesman. We don't want to just show up randomly to your door and knock on it and go, you've been avoiding my phone calls. We're going to sit down and talk now, because that's going to be a turnoff. People don't like being told what to do and pressured into it. So us as agents have to walk a fine line. Sometimes we doubt if we're doing enough work to be aggressive to get you across that finish line. And then we give up and assume, well, I guess they're not interested. And then you assume, well, they stopped calling. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe we shouldn't move forward. So now we have a buyer who didn't buy a house and an agent who wasn't able to make a commission. Whereas if the parties talked, might have been able to work it out. So let's say we get through that process and we're still talking to the agent, still talking to the buyer, and we start matching the homes to the payment and the loan. Well, when they were looking at homes on their own, they're on Zillow or they're on another real estate website, and they're looking at homes, they're likely higher priced than the ones they really qualify for. Again, we all do this. So what happens? Well, they are emotionally invested in that 4,000 square foot home they saw that has the pool, the spa, the half basketball court, the wraparound front patio. These are the things they're seeing, and now you're taking them into a typical, like let's say 1980s neighborhood where every home is one of three floor plans. They're smaller, it's a nice community, but it doesn't have that pizzazz. Kind of like the difference between a Honda Accord and a Mercedes. The Honda Accord is a fantastic car, but it doesn't quite have that sex appeal and the pizzazz that the Mercedes does. Well, now we're up against that. And then we start questioning our decisions again. Are we making the right choice of investing everything we have into something that's not our forever home? Because we know we're not going to want to live here forever. So then agents have to re-educate and talk to the buyer about the idea and the goal can't be the forever home on your first purchase. We have to look at incremental steps. That's how you afford the bigger home, is you buy this one, you stop paying rent, you start building equity, and when things change and it's time to upgrade the home, you have additional built-in money on the sale of this home that you're able to buy the next home. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Until they talk to another friend who tells them another horror story. And it repeats the process of going back into fear mode and then questioning their own decisions. And it's very difficult to pull out those worries from a buyer without seeming pushy. So an agent has to be very much emotionally in tune with what the buyer's going through and very, very, very specific at how they address the buyer in order to help what matters to the buyer. Because remember, agents, it doesn't matter at all what matters to you. It just doesn't. The transaction has nothing to do with you and what you want and your timelines. It's about satisfying the needs of the client. So if we keep our focus there, you will do a better job as a buyer's agent, which is what we all want you guys to do, is be better agents. I'm pretty sure all the buyers out there would appreciate it. So the next problem is there is an entire world of unknowns. And just like missing certainty in life, buyers view unknowns, things they don't know about, things they don't even know that they don't know about that are going to go on in a transaction and the way things work, that it's a mystery. And that makes them nervous because they don't know. And all they have is a lender and an agent telling them things, along with friends or family that want to inject themselves into the transaction and give them advice. And whether that advice is really relevant to this particular husband and wife that are buying the home, now it's likely not, because it's relevant advice for what that person went through. But every transaction, whether you're a buyer or seller, is unique. Everybody's personal finances and needs and wants and tastes is unique. And we have to service those unique wants and needs in that unique situation with that unique couple that's doing a transaction. So the outside advice doesn't particularly work. All it does is create more fear. So this whole time, and we still haven't seen a house, we are working against doubt, working against fear, working against upselling themselves, and being disappointed in the homes we're able to show them. And then when you try and convince somebody as the agent that this is a smart purchase, all of a sudden buyers feel like they're being sold. And see, people don't like being sold. They don't like their autonomy being taken away from them. Nobody wants someone telling them what to do. Nobody likes feeling trapped. Nobody likes feeling obligated to have to do something because somebody told them to do it. So we're working against that human condition. So let's say we get through all of that. Now we're up to the part where we have to write a contract. And what happens when we put pen to paper? There is a big difference, ladies and gentlemen, about using DocuSign to sign binding contracts than there is when you actually have to hold a pen and permanently write your own signature and initials on a contract that binds you into, performance of sending money to escrow and buying a home and obligates you to pay commissions. So now if we're putting pen to paper, it becomes real. And we've all seen the TV shows, and we've all had clients where we're sitting around the table doing this and they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And that's great. But as soon as you walk out the door with the signed contract, doubt and fear steps in again. It does every time. Doesn't matter how happy the buyers are, they're still worried. Then maybe you get the call, your offer was accepted. You're so excited, you call the buyers, they're excited. Okay, what do we do next? Because we don't really know. You as the agent, calm them down. Okay, we're going to order the appraisal. We're going to have a home inspection. Oh no, home inspection. What if something's wrong with the house? All of a sudden, the stepfather comes into the picture. Yeah, you need to make sure they look in the attic because most homes in that area have rats and they eat the wiring. And that neighborhood, the air conditioners are old. That air conditioner breaks. You're going to have to pay out of pocket to fix it. When your mother and I had to replace our air conditioner, it ended up being like $27,000 because, they don't make the same coolant they used to. So we had to upgrade. Then we found the ducts were bad. That whole thing set us back $40-something thousand by the time we were done. And it still doesn't work as well as the old one. Oh no, doubt, fear. Oh my gosh, what if the house isn't perfect? Well, guess what? There is no such thing as a perfect house. Any of you who ever bought or sold a home or represented somebody in the purchase or the sale of a home knows home inspectors are going to find stuff. That's their job. There is no perfect house, not even a brand new built one that's never been lived in. There are things that aren't perfect. So now how do we balance the fact that maybe the foundation isn't bolted to the house because the whole neighborhood was built that way in the 1940s. How do you explain that to a buyer that goes, well, I'm reading what it says here, and it says California has earthquakes, and they recommend that the home be bolted to the foundation, and this one's not? Well, you look at it and go, well, I've sold homes in this neighborhood, and not a single one of them has been bolted, and they're all sitting here, so I think you'll be all right. But you can't just say that as an agent. We can't give that kind of advice. We have to let the buyers make their own decisions. We can educate them on their options. But at the end of the day, it's their checkbook and it's their house. It's our job to advise, but not to guarantee. We can't do that because you can't guarantee anything. I mean, for God's sakes, there could be a horrible earthquake in California that levels a neighborhood. I mean, it's hypothetically possible. So, and that's if we just find the basic normal stuff we see, GFCI doesn't work, a toilet's loose from the ground. Perhaps the buyers don't have any experience with simple maintenance because they've been renting. They've never had to do it. Maybe they don't understand how easy it is to tighten down a toilet or to tighten down a kitchen faucet or recock seams against a sink. I don't know. These are things that you need to guide them in the right way to look up to see how big of a deal it is. Well, maybe the home needs carpet and paint on the interior. And now their mind starts budgeting. Oh my gosh, we put all of our money into the purchase of this. If we move in, I don't really want to move the furniture in when the carpet needs to be replaced, because how do you replace carpet in a home that's fully furnished? Which, by the way, if you've never done it, is a real giant pain in the rear end. Can be done. So now we're trying to find money to do things before we even move into the house. Oh my gosh, wait, what do we do if it doesn't close on time and we've given notice to our landlord and we have to move out? Where does our stuff go? Where are we going to sleep? Do we have to live in a hotel room until this happens? We have more fears, more of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. And an agent saying, don't worry, I'm amazing, I'll make everything work flawlessly, is the biggest line of baloney I've ever heard, because we don't control everything. We can only try and ward off problems and fix problems when they occur. But we can't guarantee a perfect transaction. I've actually never seen one in 25 plus years. There's always some stuff. And all of this, of course, happens, and that doesn't even count for all you guys that deal with showing up to the home inspection and the entire family comes and follows the home inspector around and has opinions on things. So the whole time you're dealing with all this. And then we get into negotiations of asking for credits, and they're questioning, are we asking enough? If we ask too much, are we going to make the seller mad? Are they going to say no? If they say no, what do we do? Do we even want the house? Oh my gosh, now we're shopping again online just in case, and we're finding other listings that came up we didn't see. Now we're questioning whether or not our realtor did a good enough job showing us all the homes before they allowed us to make an offer. Agents pulling their hair out. Oh my God, I've got to get my buyer under control. They're overthinking this. Well, of course they're overthinking this. I don't care what personality type they are. There are very few people that went, yeah, that was my decision. I don't really care. I already made the decision. We're going to see it through. No, we second guess ourselves. Think about it. You second guess everything you do the second someone pays attention to it. They know they're being judged by friends and family. They don't want to make a mistake. We never want anybody to see us make a mistake. In fact, if we make mistakes in private, we don't care as much about them. But if somebody knows about that mistake, oh, it is a big deal. So now we're dealing with that. So if you break it down to its simple form, buyers are scared. And it's our job as agents to make you less scared as a buyer. It is to show you the path and the smart and intelligent ways to use the loan you're taking out and the money you're putting in the smartest way possible that works for you and your family, that will work for you long term and meet your goals. And it is our job to advise you on the best way to handle negotiations so you can make the decision on what you want us to carry out. And then us as agents have to have the experience in being able to work with the listing agent in order to sell the listing agent on your idea as the buyer of what you want, so they can take it to the seller and sell the idea to the seller and get acceptance, and you can get what you want, get the home you want. And when you close and you get the keys, move in and feel comfortable that you made the right choice. So the analogy I was thinking of, especially in the market nowadays, where people are really using a very large percentage of their income to not only purchase the home, but to pay for it monthly. And I go, well, how do people do this? Do other people just make so much more money than I do? They have so much more savings. They have so much less credit card debt. Are their car payments cheaper? Is their insurance better? I don't understand. There's so many expenses. I don't understand how people live. And it's funny when you're someone like in my position that sees thousands of transactions a year, you realize everybody, I mean, yes, there's plenty of people that can just write checks for beautiful homes and it's just of no consequence, hardly makes a dent in their account. But I'm talking about us regular folks. Yeah, we're all in the same boat. People have got credit cards, there's student loans, there's car payments, there's car insurance, then there's going to be homeowners insurance, there's probably life insurance, sometimes there's private health insurance, there's medical debt, sometimes there's IRS and state income taxes that are back owed. Yes, we all have these. Yes, people aren't necessarily taking like just a tiny little 1% of their check each month and being able to make their mortgage. No, it takes a substantial amount of the money they make every month to do so. But somehow they figure it out. So the analogy is those of us that are on the older side of things, that have had kids, especially like in cases where the kids are either becoming adults like mine are right now, or, have been out of the house for years and maybe now are in their 30s or something and successful and have already gone through this process. I always think about the youngins that go, I don't know if we should have kids. How will we make it work? We've only got a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, apartment. And, her job's not stable and, I don't make enough money and I don't know how we'd pay for it. And I don't know where we'd put the crib. And then there wouldn't be a backyard for the kid to play in. And, couples that are considering having children always go through this. I remember I did. It was just like, oh my God, I don't know if this will work. But you know what? Somehow we all figured it out and it all worked out. It just did. It doesn't mean it wasn't stressful, but somehow it works out. And I'm not saying it's magic, but we start to make decisions that reinforces the end goal we want. So we need, as buyers, we need to approach these situations the same way. Does this make enough sense to move forward? Nothing's going to be perfect. Can we make it work? Yeah, maybe we can stop going to Starbucks. Maybe we can eat in a little bit more. Maybe we will drive a used Honda Accord as opposed to a new Honda Accord. But there are ways to make it work. And in the long term, just like having children, there's just like nothing cooler you've ever done in your entire life. And you go, wow, we got through all that stuff, getting pregnant, going through birth, having an infant that I didn't know what to do with, to having a toddler, baby proofing a house, and the change of tastes and toys, and getting through school to graduation and watching them become young men and women and watching them go through their ups and downs and maybe watching them get married and have their own kids and buy their own homes. And you sit back and go, God, that was the best damn thing I've ever done. Well, homeownership is absolutely the same thing. It really is. So work with somebody who's going to work with you to guide you, coax you, and be your therapist and help talk you into the right ways to think and feel and carry out your wishes, your decisions, so that you get what you want when it's all said and done. Because I'll tell you right now, all of these years of representing sellers especially, and then back in the old days of representing buyers, I've never had a buyer, even when there were problems, and even after they moved in, maybe months later, the water heater goes out. I've never seen a buyer who became a homeowner long term ever be unhappy, ever regret their decision. Even if they've outgrown the house or decided they want another neighborhood or another state, even back in the crash of the market, people who were losing their homes still didn't regret long term having bought it because they liked owning where they lived. So one of the most important things that we can do is represent buyers and sellers correctly so that our buyers and sellers feel in control, feel like they've got a partner in someone that's going to get them through the process. So always remember the person's psychology, whether it's the buyer, the seller, and pay special attention if you're an agent to your own personality and your own psychology in the situation.